You've been lied to for 30 years. They told you that the ultimate goal, the finish line of the American dream, was that paid in full stamp on your mortgage statement. They told you that once you own those four walls and that patch of grass outright, you are finally free. But what if I told you that stamp is actually a set of handcuffs? What if that house you're working so hard to pay off is actually a prison for your wealth? Welcome back to Clarence Invests, and today we're going to talk about the mortgage prison. This is a topic that hits hard for those of us over 40, because we grew up with parents who lived by one rule: get out of debt as fast as possible. But the world has changed, and if you're still following 1980s advice in 2026, you're not just being safe, you're potentially committing financial suicide. Let's look at the reality of being house rich and cash poor. Imagine you've worked your tail off, skipped the vacations, driven the old car, and finally paid off your $500,000 home. You feel great, right? You have no monthly payment. But then, life happens. Maybe it's a medical emergency, a sudden job loss, or a major economic shift. You look at your bank account and see it's empty because every spare cent went into that mortgage. You look at your house, and it's worth $500,000, but you can't eat your drywall. You can't go to the grocery store and pay with a handful of roof shingles. To get that money back, you either have to sell the house, which takes months and costs a fortune in fees, or you have to go to the bank and beg them for a loan. And here's the kicker. If you've lost your job, the bank isn't going to give you a loan, even though it's your own money sitting in those walls. That is the definition of a prison. You are sitting on a mountain of gold, but you're starving to death because you can't reach it. For many of us in our 40s and 50s, the clock is ticking. We don't have another 40 years to make up for lost time. Every dollar you send to the bank to pay off a 3 or 4% mortgage early is a dollar that isn't working for you in the market. Think about the math, and don't worry, I'll keep it simple. If your mortgage interest rate is low and the inflation rate is high, the bank is actually the one losing money, not you. In 2026, we've seen how prices keep climbing. If you owe the bank $300,000 and the value of a dollar drops by 5% every year, your debt is actually shrinking in real value while you sleep. Why would you be in a hurry to pay back cheap money with expensive money that you worked so hard to earn? It's a massive mistake that keeps the middle class trapped in a cycle of low liquidity. We need to talk about the psychological trap of security. We've been conditioned to think that debt is evil. And sure, credit card debt at 25% interest is a fire that will burn your house down. But a mortgage is different. It's strategic debt. It's the only way the average person can use the bank's money to build their own wealth. When you pay off that mortgage early, you are essentially giving the bank a giant, interest-free loan. You are taking your liquid cash, money that could be in a high-yield account or index funds or even a side business, and you're burying it in the backyard. Once it's in the house, it's dead equity. It earns 0% interest. Your house will go up in value whether you owe $1 million on it or $0. The appreciation of the property has nothing to do with your loan balance. So, by locking your cash into the equity, you're not making the house more valuable. You're just making yourself more vulnerable. Think about the opportunity cost. If you're 45 years old and you start putting an extra $2,000 a month toward your mortgage, you might pay it off 10 years early. Great. But if you took that same $2,000 and put it into a standard S&P 500 index fund, which has historically returned around 10% a year, where would you be in those 10 years? You'd likely have a pile of cash worth significantly more than the interest you saved by paying off the house. And more importantly, You'd have control. If you need that money, it's a click away. It's liquid. It's freedom. The person with the paid-off house is stuck. The person with the $500,000 brokerage account and a manageable mortgage is the one who actually has the power. Let's get real about the peace of mind argument. People love to say, "Clarence, I just want to sleep better at night knowing I don't owe anyone anything." I get it. I really do. But you know what helps me sleep better? Knowing that if the world goes sideways, I have $200,000 in a liquid account that I can access in 48 hours. Knowing that I have enough cash to pay my mortgage for the next 5 years if I never earn another dime. That is true peace of mind. Paying off the house gives you a false sense of security. It makes you feel safe until the moment you actually need help. It's like having a top-of-the-line security system but no food in the pantry. You're protected from the debt monster, but you're vulnerable to everything else life throws at you. We also have to consider the tax implications. In many places, the interest you pay on your mortgage is tax-deductible. When you pay off that house, you lose that deduction. You're essentially telling the government, "Hey, I don't want this tax break anymore. I'd rather just give you more of my money." It's another layer of the prison. You're working harder, paying more in taxes, and keeping less for your family. For those of us looking toward retirement, we need to be maximizing every single advantage we have. The goal isn't to have a paid-off house and a tiny pension. The goal is to have a massive net worth and the cash flow to live the life we've spent decades dreaming about. Let's talk about the inflation hedge. If you have a fixed-rate mortgage, you have a beautiful thing, a fixed cost in a world of rising prices. Think back to what a gallon of milk cost 20 years ago. Think about what it costs today. Now imagine if your mortgage payment stayed exactly the same for those 20 years. It did. As your salary goes up over time and the cost of goods goes up, that mortgage payment becomes a smaller and smaller percentage of your income. By paying it off early, you are giving up that hedge. You're trading a predictable, shrinking expense for a massive lump sum of cash that you'll never see again until you sell the property. Does that sound like a smart investment to you? Or does it sound like you're doing the bank a favor? There's also the issue of the step up in basis and legacy. If your plan is to leave the house to your kids, you need to understand how the math works for them too. If you dump all your cash into the house and die with a paid-off home, your kids get the house. But if you had kept that money in an investment account and left them a house with a mortgage and a massive pile of stocks, they have options. They can use the stocks to pay off the house if they want, or they can keep the investments growing. By forcing the money into the house, you're making decisions for them that might not be in their best interest 20 or 30 years from now. You're passing on a physical asset that is expensive to maintain, rather than financial flexibility. I see it all the time in the Clarence Invests community. Men who have worked 30 years. They have the gold watch. They have the paid-off colonial in the suburbs, and they are terrified. They're terrified because they realize they are equity rich, but lifestyle poor. They have $1 million in real estate, but they're worried about the cost of health insurance or whether they can afford a decent trip to see their grandkids. They are in the mortgage prison. They are trapped by the very thing they thought would set them free. Don't let that be you. If you're sitting there with an extra $1,000 a month, or a bonus from work, or an inheritance, don't just blindly throw it at the bank. Stop and ask yourself, where is this money most powerful? If your mortgage rate is under 5%, the answer is almost certainly not the mortgage. The power of compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world, but it only works if the money is actually invested. When you pay down a mortgage, you aren't compounding anything. You're just reducing a low-interest liability. You're playing defense when you should be playing offense. We are in our prime earning years. This is the time when we should be building a fortress of liquidity, a fortress that allows us to pivot, to invest in new opportunities, or to simply survive a market crash without breaking a sweat. The bank wants you to pay off your mortgage. Why? Because it reduces their risk. They want your equity in that house because it makes their loan safer. They are using your fear of debt to make themselves more secure. It's time to stop thinking like a borrower and start thinking like an owner of assets, an owner of capital, and an owner of your own financial future. I want you to really visualize two different scenarios for a moment. Scenario A: you are 65 years old. Your house is paid off. You have $50,000 in the bank. You get a $2,000 a month Social Security check. You're safe, but you're one major repair or one medical bill away from a crisis. You can't afford to travel. You're watching every penny. Scenario B: you are 65 years old. You still owe $200,000 on your mortgage. Your monthly payment is $1,500, but because you didn't pay it off early, you have $700,000 in an investment account. That account is generating $30,000 or $40,000 a year in dividends and growth. You can pay your mortgage easily, and you have $500,000 left over for whatever you want. Who is actually free? Who is actually in prison? The answer is obvious, yet millions of people choose scenario A every single day because they're afraid of a word: debt. Let's break the chains of that old school thinking. Let's realize that debt-free isn't a destination, it's a tool. And like any tool, if you use it wrong, you get hurt. If you use it right, you build something incredible. The house you live in is a liability that masquerades as an asset. It takes money out of your pocket every month for taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Until the day you sell it, it's an expense. Why would you be in such a rush to sink all your capital into an expense? Now, I'm not saying you should never pay off your house. There is a time and a place. If you're a few years from retirement and your investments are already maxed out, and you just want that one last bill gone so you can live on a fixed income, fine. But for the vast majority of us who are still in the game, the mortgage prison is a real threat to our long-term wealth. It's a comfortable prison, sure. It has nice curtains and a manicured lawn, but it's still a prison. It limits your movement, it limits your growth, and it limits your potential. We have to be smarter than the marketing. We have to be more calculated than the traditions our parents handed down. The 2026 economy doesn't care about tradition. It cares about math, it cares about liquidity, and it cares about who has the cash when the music stops. Don't be the guy standing there with a paid-in-full deed and an empty wallet. Be the guy who understands how to make the system work for him. As you move forward, I want you to look at your mortgage statement differently. Don't look at it as a burden you need to destroy. Look at it as a low-cost loan that is funding your other investments. Look at it as a way to keep your money working for you where it can actually grow. When you change your perspective, you change your life. You move from the mindset of a tenant to the mindset of an investor. And that, my friends, is how you truly win. I know this might be controversial. I know your brother-in-law or your neighbor might tell you I'm crazy. But ask them one thing. If they had a choice between a paid-off house or $1 million in cash, which would they choose? They'll say the cash every time. And yet, by paying off their mortgage early, they are choosing the house over the cash every single month. They just don't realize they're making that choice. Now you do. You have the knowledge. You have the numbers. The question is, are you going to stay in the prison? Or are you going to walk out the door and start building real wealth? We aren't here for the quick fix. We aren't here for the get-rich-quick schemes. We are here for the long-term strategic building of a legacy. And a big part of that is understanding where your capital is most effective. Your home is where you live. It's where you raise your family. It's where you make memories. But it shouldn't be your only investment strategy. It shouldn't be the place where your wealth goes to die. Keep your money moving. Keep it liquid. Keep it working. The world is changing fast, and the people who survive and thrive are the ones who can adapt. Being locked into a house makes you rigid. Being invested in the market makes you flexible. In the second half of our lives, flexibility is everything. It's the difference between a retirement spent worrying and a retirement spent exploring. So, next time you're tempted to send that extra $500 to the mortgage company, take a breath. Think about the mortgage prison. Think about the power of that $500 if it were put into a diversified portfolio. Think about the freedom of having that cash available if you ever need it. The bank can wait. Your future can't. I want you to really sit with this idea. It's a shift in identity. We've been told that being a responsible adult means being debt-free. But being a wealthy adult means being debt-smart. There is a massive difference. One is about following rules. The other is about understanding the game. We're going to dive deeper into how to structure your portfolio to balance your mortgage and your investments in future videos. But for now, I want you to just break free from the must-pay-it-off mentality. Give yourself permission to have a mortgage. Give yourself permission to be liquid. Give yourself permission to be wealthy. The walls of the prison are only as high as you build them. It's time to stop adding bricks and start building a bridge to where you actually want to be. Remember, the goal isn't just to survive, it's to thrive. It's to have the resources to take care of your family, to give back to your community, and to live a life of significance. That requires capital. And capital that is locked in a house isn't helping anyone, not even you. It's just sitting there, silent and unproductive. Let's get out of the prison. Let's start looking at our homes as places to live, not as piggy banks that we can't open. Let's take control of our financial narrative and write a better chapter for the years ahead. You've worked too hard to let your wealth get stuck in the mud. Pull it out, put it to work, and watch what happens. This is the path to real financial independence. Not just the absence of debt, but the presence of choice. The choice to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. That is the ultimate investment, and it starts with making sure your money is in the right place. Don't let the mortgage prison take that away from you. As we wrap this up, I want you to take a look at your own situation. What is your interest rate? What is your liquidity? What could that extra mortgage payment be doing for you elsewhere? These are the questions that change lives. These are the conversations we need to be having. Because at 40 plus, we don't have time for mistakes. We only have time for strategy. Stay sharp, stay invested, and most importantly, stay free. Don't let the old ways of thinking keep you trapped. You're smarter than that. You're better than that. And you've got a whole community here at Clarence Invests backing you up. Let's make the rest of our lives the best of our lives. It starts with one decision. The decision to prioritize your freedom over a piece of paper from the bank. You've got this. I'll see you in the next episode. The $80,000 truck mistake. How your vehicle choice is stealing your freedom. In the meantime, keep your eyes on the goal and don't hide your money in the walls. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and share your mortgage stories in the comments. I'd love to read about your situation.